Just got out of the car at the trailhead for the Appalachian Trail, and this chicken came over to say hello. Some people must feed him. I have nothing for him today, though. The trailhead for the Appalachian Trail. Here is our first white blaze. I came from down there. Car is parked, and this is the Jacob's Ladder parking area and entrance to the trail. The shelters are closed, but the trail is open because of the virus. Of course, we're just doing a little out and back day hike. So this will be my first video on my new channel. The channel is created with the intention that I am going to hike the Appalachian Trail, hike it when I retire sometime between 2025 and 2029. I have not yet decided exactly when I'm going to retire. However, I'm planning now to do that. So we have a blue blaze there, so that's a side trail. That may be the Jacob's Ladder Trail. And we have a white blaze here going up the Appalachian Trail, which is what we're doing. Second white blaze. So I live about a 40-minute drive from here in eastern New York, just south of Albany, New York, little village there. And I'm fortunate that I live this close to the trail. It's also a great place in general to be a hiker because I'm halfway between the Catskills and the Adirondacks. And I frequently hike both mountains in the Catskills and the Adirondacks with my sons, one of whom is also an avid hiker, Benjamin. He may or may not join me on my Appalachian Trail trip, but depending on his work, I don't know that he can get that much time off. However, in January, this coming January, it's now, what is today? Today's June 1st, 2020. January 2021. I have a very good friend of mine who lives in Lawton, Oklahoma. I was in the Army, and I was on active duty at Fort Sill, which is right outside of Lawton, Oklahoma. And I started attending a church out there in the village, in the town of Lawton. And I met the most wonderful family. And Richard is an avid hiker and biker himself, who was a former Army captain himself. And he had been retired and out of the Army for many years, but lived in Lawton because he got out of the Army and stayed in Germany. And he ended up getting married and raising his family in Germany. And if you know anything about Germany and the areas around there in Europe, there's a lot of hikers. And I don't know where he was stationed out there, but at any rate, he got out of the Army, stayed there, raised his family, and did a lot of hiking himself. So he is planning a trip to do the, I'm going to probably say this wrong, I think it's the Washita Trail in Arkansas. There's a big helicopter flying over. Sorry for the noise. The Washita Trail, I believe, if I remember correctly, is 223 miles long. We are estimating a 2 to 3-week hike to complete it from end to end. And it has shelters along the way, and I will be doing a video series on that as well and posting it to this channel when I do it in January. So everybody can follow along. I'm going to stop here by this tree and share something else. So I just purchased about a few weeks ago a pair of trekking poles. These are called pacer poles. They are made in England. They are designed by a physiologist, and if you see the top of these are angled, and they are contoured to your hand grip. There's a left and a right, and this puts the poles at the perfect angle for your wrist and prevents wrist overextension and injury, and it also gives you more stability while walking. They're wonderful. Just trying them now for the first time. They were invented by this physiologist. She tried to sell the handle grip technology to one of the bigger companies. They turned her down, and she got it produced herself. They're quite popular in the hiking community. You can only buy them from her website, pacerpole.com, I believe it is. And I sent her an email because I'm 6'5", and I wanted to make sure I didn't get poles that were too short, because they have different poles. And she recommended these. These are the biggest poles they make. It's a 3-section alloy, which means it's aluminum. And in England, that would be aluminium. And these are also recommended for carrying a backpack because they're stronger, believe it or not, than the carbon fiber. Carbon fiber poles can actually snap off. They do sell carbon fiber poles as well. So anyway, I sent her an email. She sent me back a personal response to my email and recommended these. And she signed it off and said, walk tall, because when I mentioned my height to her. So I got these today in the mail, picked them up this morning from my post office box. And in the package was a personal note from her, and her name is Heather. I don't know if her name is on here. Oh, yes. Walk tall, Heather Allen Rhodes. She is the inventor of the pacer pole, and whether she knew it or not, she just gave me my trail name. I had previously picked a different trail name I was going to use for the trail, and in the tradition of hiking, I'm letting another hiker give me my name, and that will be from Heather at Pacer Pole. My trail name is now Walk Tall, and I'm going to name my channel Walk Tall for hiking. So I will be back when I get up the trail a ways and get up toward the pond. Beckett Mountain along the trail to Finerty Pond. It appears there may have been a fire tower here at one time. Foundation. This is my very first official entry into a Appalachian Trail log as Walk Tall. I'm an aspiring through hiker out for a day hike to Finerty Pond. I have arrived at Finerty Pond. I would call this a lake. But I guess the only rule for naming a body of water a pond or a lake is whoever names it gets to call it a pond or a lake. My dad, when he was alive, had land hunting property out near Buffalo, New York, and he had a pond built on it, and it was considerably smaller than this. There's a lot of mosquitoes down here by the water. I'm going to put on some more bug spray, get away from the water, and sit down and do a little bit more of a vlog. I shall return. So this is my first experience leaving Trail Magic on the Appalachian Trail. I bought these on the way here at a grocery store, kind of impromptu. Had I thought about it, I would have brought string to hang those bananas out of a tree so small critters wouldn't eat them. I do realize squirrels or raccoons potentially may munch on those before a human finds them. I'm hopeful that someone will find them before a little critter does. Just do a quick pan. I am right next to Finerty Lake Pond, leaving the Trail Magic. So I'm just off the trail here. This is Walling Mountain. I wouldn't know if it was a mountain if I didn't have the All Trails app that told me I was at the top of this mountain. There's no view, and there's two mountains you go over on the way to Finerty Pond. You go over Beckett Mountain, where I signed into the logbook, and Walling Mountain. Just wanted to mention a couple other things. I was mentioning the pacer poles being at the perfect angle for your wrists. It does prevent wrist fatigue, but the other thing that these poles were designed for is to put you in perfect posture, relieving knee and back pain as well, because you're holding them at the correct angle. And that's actually why they were designed by Heather, who is a physiologist in Great Britain, which I'm not sure, but I suspect that's kind of like a physical therapist in the United States. But anyhow, she gives very long instructions on her website for the pacer poles on exactly how to use them and the benefit that they give you. She sent me a very long email, which I'd like to say, Heather, I read the whole thing if you ever watch this video, with instructions on how to use them and the physiology behind them and why they're good to use for your posture and back problems and knee problems. And they are great to walk with. Today's the first time I've used them, just got them today in the mail this morning. And happy to say they work great. And I have accepted the trail name, Walk Tall, from Heather. Thank you for that. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out also to Wild on the Trail. He is through hiking the Appalachian Trail right now as we speak. He is northbound. He paused briefly and went home during the virus outbreak, which is not over yet, but they had closed the trail. It's open again, and they are allowing people to hike on it again, and he's back on trail. But he inspired me greatly to want to do this when I retire. I have always wanted to hike the Appalachian Trail. When I was 19 years old, I wanted to do it, but I was working at a hardware store for minimum wage and had no means to pay for such a thing, and my parents weren't going to do it. So when I retire, I will have the means to do it. A lot of black flies here, by the way, in Massachusetts. Now, I mentioned I live in New York, but this part of the trail is in Massachusetts, and not a far drive from me. The part of the trail in New York State is down south of me toward New York City, and I've never been down there on that part of the trail before. So, and then I also wanted to mention, I mentioned my friend Richard and hiking the Washatia Trail with him in January. I think I got sidetracked by the helicopter and never finished the story. So Richard is an avid hiker and biker himself, and he invited me down there, and I'm going to take my son, who's a hiker, and he's bringing his son-in-law, and the four of us are going to through hike the trail in January, and that will be on this channel as well at some point. So just wanted to give a quick introduction to my new channel and my new trail name. Thanks for watching.